Alrighty folks, how are you doing down there in Florida? And today I'm again addressing Florida. This is November 14th, and this is show number 96. The title of the show is The Florida Donut Building. So I design things just as a hobby, you know. Not saying I'm good, but Dad was a bit of an architect, so it may be a chip off the old block. You never know. Dad was a draftsman. So when I was a little kid, he'd be up. He had a room for drafting up in the old house in the office. And he'd be going around, you know, just working on plans. He did schools quite a bit. And he was pretty good at whatever he did, I think. Now, I'm designing here something I call the Florida Donut Building, and I design with a pencil and paper. I rough out the concept. So this is not actually up to snuff, let's say. It's a concept drawing. Now it's a building with tapered sides. It's got 7 floors. And it sits on a floating donut, and it has a huge photovoltaic or PV top, and the top of this structure here has skylights, so it lets in a lot of the light. And then it's got a swimming pool up on top, which is held up by a central I don't want to call it a standpipe because you'd think it would be full of water, but it would be like a standpipe, only it wouldn't be full of water. It'd have elevators, etc. So structurally very sound. And then, you know, the PV cantilevers out on posts and pipes, way out. So one of the things with floating a building is that it's protected from an earthquake. So I thought that was the only use for this floating building concept that I've been after for quite a while. But you can actually put solar on top, and in such a way you can, let's say, tilt the, you can have the fixed PV up on top, and I've got it in a round fashion here. And I don't have a dimension on that, but it looks like about 180 feet across for the PV top. It's quite big. It's way up there. It'll be used for gathering the rain as a rain catch. But mainly it would be tilted maybe 15 degrees, and it would tilt in the morning toward the sun. And it would follow the sun around to the sunset. Maybe it would tilt a little more. I'm not sure. And then down below, the people would be looking at nice orange groves. And you know, I'm hoping that Florida can zone itself such a way that if you do go with something like the concepts that I'm going with, and that you zone like my dad did in Harwich, zone upscale. So let's say you've got a 7-story building, and then you might say for so many beds or bedrooms, you've got to have a set aside for X amount of property. That is natural land. That would enrich Florida. And I just think that Dad was right. You don't want overly dense situations whereby there are too many buildings and too many houses and too many people, too much pollution, just too much. You want to keep it kind of classy. Harwich went with the upscale zoning, and I think next door here in Dennis they didn't. There's a lot of, I would call, cracker boxes, my dad used to call them, on small lots, which is a beautiful thing around here. There's nothing wrong with Dennis. But in Harwich, the structures are probably a little bigger with a lot more land. And we do have our little areas where, you know, the campground in Harwichport, etc., that are dense pack areas. All right, so this structure here is sitting on the salt water that has been pumped up or pushed up or gotten up there somehow. and it runs down the backbone of Florida, probably off to the east quite a bit. And as far as water quality goes, I don't think we want to be pumping any good stuff. That is our number one and number two, and any mud from the bottom of Lake Okeechobee, and you name it, you know, there's some stuff we just want to pump out because you get too much. So from the Gulf Coast area where Crystal River is, you want to be moving your effluents over to the East Coast, and then from the East Coast you want to be, and on the way you enrich these with the mud from Okeechobee, etc., and the canals and this and that, and you enrich it, and at the same time you are inoculating all this salt water with algae of the right kind, and then you're pumping out a finished product. You're not pumping raw sewage into the ocean. You're pumping out enriched seawater, and that is in certain ratios of the good stuff to the seawater, and that will work. It's worked by experience on Nantucket. Nantucket Harbor is pretty big, and if you keep the effluents pretty much on the natural side, pretty much, then we'll be in good shape. We don't want to be polluting and pumping a bunch of chemicals out there. Even if it's 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 15 miles offshore to beautiful underwater palaces, reefs, where all the shrimp are living. And you gotta think in your head, geez, oh, I don't want to get it. If I were a little shrimp, I wouldn't want to charge of that stuff coming my way. Well, it will be so diffuse and such that it'll be safe for all the critters out there. That's the point. You want income from the fisheries and aquaculture. Public aquaculture, hopefully. Private aquaculture can make money too. But my specialty is for the public aquaculture with the fishery management systems I designed, which is called the market quota system. This I'm published in, and it's on my webpage, environmentalfisherman.com. I'm having some trouble with my webpage, but that's where my market quota system, the ultimate in public resource management, that's where that is. That's a paper that I presented in the year 1999, and so it's called IFET 2000. It was a big conference every 2 years. The IFET, or International Institute for Fisheries, Economics, and Trade, they have a big conference somewhere in the world to talk about fisheries economics, and I presented. Because fish folk was big, and fish folk people said, you got to do this, you got to present. You can't be just the fishermen talking about this. You got to, join the, you might say, the establishment, complex system type people that design this kind of thing. And that's what they said. I'm designing complex systems. So I said, oh, okay. So the donut building that I'm looking at here is modest, and it's doable. The building is shaded, and it produces electricity. It sits on a moat of salt water that's dug out from the marl, and then you've got high ground where all this, and you build a pan for the salt water. You have to contain the salt water, otherwise it's going to get right into the water table and mix in. Now that may be okay 2 or 3 miles from the coast, where you can artificially pump the fresh water up a little bit higher to drive the salt water that's in these meandering waterways that go back out to the ocean with your fresh water that you have. In other words, the creation of rivers in Florida, you're ripe for that. And and these are the buildings that can be sitting pretty a little bit higher with the salt water. And picture yourself on the 8th floor, the top, the penthouse, or on the roof, I guess, but it's got a PV roof. And you're in a saltwater pool, and you're looking out, you're looking all around. You can see for miles around you, because Florida is beautiful that way. You can Really get a good view. Beautiful clouds, beautiful scenery. Orange groves, beautiful sky with the clouds. And you might have a freshwater pool. You know, some people don't like a saltwater pool. You can have that up on the roof or have it down below. I have one here down in the lower areas of the building. And with this building here, most likely you'll tell the people that are moving in, we have a saltwater toilet system. If you don't like it, don't move in. And you might want to have fresh and salt shower. So you might want to take a little bit of a salt shower and rinse off with the fresh. So you'll have dual water systems in this building, fresh and salt. Your appliances for urine collection will be there. And then you'll have, and they have these all today. This is not new. This is not my idea. To have these, you know, one flush is for the number 1 and one flush is, the other flush is for the number 2. So you'll have this stuff and you'll have appliances which can put the number 2, as I call it, to the dry, mix it. So you want a black water, essentially. It's almost like you can outlaw black water. You know, in other words, flush everything into one pipe and send it away. Well, with these green grid transit systems, you've got all the conduits you'll ever need for the sanitation systems to break down into multiple pipes. Or packages. If you're sending out a dry package of, I call it the dry, that's our number 2 with some hay and whatever else you mix it with, and compost, etc. Okay, so these buildings will be modern. Sanitation, water systems, dual water systems. Your dishwasher might have 2 cycles. Okay, salt water will get everything clean. Then you come in with your fresh water, very hot, scorching hot water to rinse. Oh, they'll be sparkling. Beautiful. You know, the soap you use in your dishwasher, of course, that'll be looked into, and it won't be just anything you want to buy. It'll be like, you got to use the soap that's kind of green. That'll help the algae. Not hard to do. Not hard to do. So you actually want the phosphates, you know, in the soap, because you'll be producing algae. Isn't that weird, huh? We come around full circle. So I did a design of something I called the Presidential Scallop Hotel, which is a shellfish system that essentially looks like a massive hula hoop, let's say 30 feet around, 25, 30 feet around, and then it's got these spikes that come up. And for these shellfish, with this particular system, your racks come down onto these spikes that come up, 8 or 10 or what have you. And I designed this over at the Nantucket Marine Laboratory, but it was not green lighted. I had to do it all myself and not supported. The only thing that was supported over there was my janitorial work. I had some scallop dredge work with a kinder, gentler dredge that wouldn't hurt the bottom as much. I did a show or 2 on that. And you can do all this stuff with the shrimp. I can remember with the shrimp, we had the Nordmore Great come in later after I was there. We killed a huge turtle, and I guess it was no big deal. A lot of this stuff for protection for the habitat, we got to get into it. And of course, improve the gear, make it better for the fishermen want to have good gear. But doable, workable, these kinder, gentler dredges were pretty good. I still have them. Still have my boat, which I want to give lectures from that boat on what I call the Bay Scallop Revival, which I can do down there in Florida. You had calico scallops coming in by the deck load down there. I'd like to say you still have them, but probably you don't. Probably they get fished right out. A lot of stuff gets fished right out, doesn't it? Okay, let's move on. So this would be modern systems, the donut building. It doesn't matter, you know, canted or whatever. You can do anything you want as long as your systems are green. I think that's beautiful, but you know, who else would? You know, a mother's son, everyone. Only face the mother could love, right? Okay, floating marine laboratories along the sluiceway. So let's say you had rail-assisted incoming salt water that went up an inclined plane and was pushed by a train. Then you had batch ponds for aquaculture all along the way here. You could even raise our Nantucket Bay scallops right here. These are beautiful little scallops. And so a hatchery could make money with those, even in Florida. You could help to fix our problem. We could help to fix your problem. You send Steve down. And then I want some help with these scallops here from Florida. Aren't they beautiful? A lot of Nantucket people and Cape Cod people love Florida. As you well know, down there in Florida. So you've got batch ponds. This is aquaculture of a different nature. It gets out of the realm of these little demonstration projects, you know, plant eelgrass. I'm going to do another show on eelgrass, but we got to stop doing the demonstration projects. We know that eelgrass can grow. We got to get into the mechanization, the industrial mechanization of eelgrass cultivation. God, how many decades are we going to be, you know, planting eelgrass? You know, it's ridiculous. We got to mechanize and go for it. In order to do that, we have to have fishery systems that will allow for a cash flow system. In other words, here come these scallops coming in, the scallops coming in. Okay, you got to put a tax on the value, a percentage tax on the value of the seafood coming in, whether it's shrimp in Florida or scallops on Nantucket. That's the way to do fishery management worldwide and locally and federally. Got to get rid of the state ribbon of control, as I mentioned. And states got to support the local and the federal. Now, you can do refrigeration down there in Florida in these marine laboratories, and you can get control over your systems. Here's an idea here for me. The little rivulets that return to the ocean that will be worth a lot in real estate money, by the way. They might have a little section of the river which can be covered, and then you shoot out in this little covered zone in the river, down in the bottom of the river. Let's say if you had an 880-foot wide, beautiful river, and then you would have let's say a 40 to 60-foot covered area that was really low, and it, you know, mechanically got covered up like your blinds. If you push a button, then the blinds close. Not too elaborate. Not too hard to imagine that you can do that. And then you blow a lot of effluents out using that system. Now that might be conducive when you've got a big rain, when you want to start cleaning house, let's say. That's when you want to use this. Wouldn't be used every day. Be used maybe 10 or 15, 20 times a year. So, but I mean, by the time we get around to these systems, it may be too late for Florida. You'll be in the mud, and you'll be backed up with all these pollutants. And these are engineered systems, not by me. I do doodle work, but they're going to be engineered by proper people with credentials. And then what we don't want to happen down in Florida is like a Peconic Bay situation, which is on Long Island. And they had a bay go south and everything died. Water turned like coffee color, and it died, everything died. I was explaining that to an old man here in Harwich that has a condo down there in Naples, and my dad used to live in Naples too. Loved it, but we have a kind of a nutty system here politically, so good people are not listened to, like myself. I'm good, I do good work, but only the oligarchy people, only the people who are blessed are listened to up here in Massachusetts. We don't want this spreading to America, this stuff here in Massachusetts. This is bad medicine, bad politics. And Scott Lively was a breath of fresh air. He was a breath of fresh air. He ran for governor here. He would have done pretty well if he would given a fair shake. Here's something for the green grid transit. It's about hydrogen tanks. I wanted to throw that in. With the new hydrogen economy, we're going to need pipes and tanks all around, but what we're not going to need is a lot of electricity brought in from the power plants. It will, over time, be a new genre in the production of what we need, our electrical needs, etc., utilities and electric. So we're going to need sun cover ideas for the water itself. For this salt water, we don't want it getting too hot. So there's all kinds of ways to cover salt water. Here's one which is a Christian idea. When I go to church, I doodle. When I go to Pam's church, I doodle. When I go to my church, Holy Trinity in Harwich, I doodle. And I can't help it, but it's what I'm inspired to do in church sometimes. And when I doodle at the Redemption Rock Church, my theme is the cross. And here I have a picture of a big cross that's up on a landfill, and it says hallelujah on it. Jesus loves you. You can go hang gliding from this cross. It's huge. Give glory to God and go bungee jumping. And their nets began to break. Climbers and fishers have been all. Okay, use a landfill by Route 95. And you want to pump up, and this cross is actually a tourist attraction. It's a place to visit, leave your problems at the cross. Let's say you're addicted, maybe a few chapels, maybe a few, maybe 25 on the hill. Salt well water can be pumped up, and that can be held there under pressure. For these hatcheries need salt well water. They don't need every critter in the ocean coming into their fish or shellfish hatchery or shrimp hatchery, let's say. So I got all kinds of combinations of ideas. Come to Jesus. Come to the salt water, living water. I tell you, I really love my work. I mean, for you Florida people that don't know me, when they gave me this psych stuff, I said, I'm not mentally ill. And then I said, 2 years later, I said, okay, I'm going into the system. And boy, did they resent that. They put me in jail once because of it. And then I've been studying this social services systems. So this is one of my idea sets, or these are my systems. And I have a town nurse-based system that everything plugs into, the clubhouse, the job in a bunk, all this social services. So I like my work. I'm a system designer. I got all kinds of good stuff here. Here's one I call Miami Island. It's a canal that surrounds Miami. It really goes, it's a big 1,800-foot wide canal. So you get more waterfront, and it's a big population area. That would take some doing to even look into that. Eminent domain, and I mean, you'd have to do a lot of digging, and you'd have to be pretty good at planning to pull it off. But that's a concept to put a canal around Miami. And I've got the canal about 40 miles wide. It's a half a donut. It's a half circle. And then it's at its furthest point inland, it's 30 miles from the beach. When I say the beach, it's to the Atlantic Ocean beach. And then it's got 5 or 6 meandering rivers, which are also very valuable real estate-wise, which go into the ocean, which are tidal. And then, of course, you've got the flush that goes in, too. So that's an enjoyable project right there. Here it is, a forceful flush. And this is fisherman talk. It's got nothing to do with toilets, but it does. I mean, people think of a flush as something to do with the toilets, but on Nantucket or Cape Cod, let's say, if we're talking about flush. We're talking about tidal flush, which Florida has very little of. And so this is another reason why Florida is conducive to these dual salt freshwater systems, sanitation systems, slash tourism and real estate values. It's a big project, but it would have to be modeled up, and then it would have to be also rendered by the artist and by engineers. And engineers, computer designers, who would take the cream, let's say, and work it up. It's the old language, work it up. And then you get to look at it, and then you say, well, let's start working the bugs out on that one there. Keep going on that project. This one's not so much. This one, not too good. But that might be a good one. That might be a keeper. That's how things are done. So these problems have to be solved. They really must be solved in Florida. These water quality, algae issues. And you do it with all this detail work. But salt and fresh water, there's a lot of this compressed air lift here. There's even here a project, Africa Sand to Florida. We can get sand from the Sahara, trade it for water and seafood and whatever else we have. Goats, trade it for goats. 1 minute to go. Okay, we got to get goats to Africa. That's another one of my projects. You might laugh at that, but it's true. It's one of my projects. Undersea living here. I have in these salt ponds. I have, for America and the people that visit, a hotel that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 levels that aren't too, maybe 7 to 8 feet. And it's all steel, and these would be underwater. 35 feet underwater, and they would all have locks, so you can go into the lock and go diving. Well, that's about it. I can't just keep yammering on here all day. They're shutting me off, folks. Okay, thanks for watching the Scannell Agenda.